Hi and welcome back to this week's Ask Charlie. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so and ring the bell to be notified of my weekly videos. This week I want to chat to you about children's birthday parties. Sigh and I worked out last night that we've hosted 30 parties over the years for 3 children, and I just love a party. I mean, who doesn't? A few of you have requested me to chat and share my top tips on children's parties, so I thought I'd put this together. It's something that I could chat about for hours and hours, but I'm going to keep this relatively concise and maybe in the future I will expand on it. So, to start with, the guest list. And it's really tricky because if your child is in a class with lots of children, it's really hard. You know, you might not want or have the space to host a party for 30 children. So you need to be sensitive, maybe do girls only, boys only, home friends, but just be sensitive because that child that hasn't been invited, it's just the worst feeling in the world. So needs to be given a little bit of thought. So that's the first point. And then timing. Timing, I think, is pretty crucial. So I like to host parties in the afternoon, and then that gives you the morning to get ready. 2 hours max. I have once made the mistake of doing 3 hours or even 2.5 hours, and they're over it. It's time to go home. So 2 hours, either 2 till 4 when they were younger, 2 till 4 worked really well, or 3 till 5. And yeah, it gives you time then to prepare in the morning, get organised, and be specific on an end time. If the parents aren't staying, say, you know, the party is over at 5, please come and collect your child then, because it's nothing worse than it dragging on and on. The next thing is presents. I don't let my children open the presents until everybody's gone home, because I think actually they get ripped open, it's chaos, you don't know what it's from who, and it's just out of control. So I very politely say thank you very much and just put it in a room and close the door, and then presents are open later, and you can write a list of who's given what and thank them for it. Really important to write thank you letters, however painful it is. Even if your child just writes their name, it's really important to acknowledge a present has been given. I also think it's a great idea to encourage people to club together and get a joint present, and then you don't end up with a whole load of things that you don't want or need. So, you know, it can be a bit tricky, but if you can encourage a group present, I think it's a really, really good idea. I used to be really adverse to people giving my children money, but actually now they're a bit older, I think it's great because they've each got their bank accounts, they're saving, or there might be something that they really want and they can use that money towards that. So actually, I have totally changed my mind re-giving money. And I do also set a limit on what I spend on children's presents, because with 3 children, it can get really out of control. Obviously, you know, godchildren, special children, that's different, but just with school friends, set in your mind a limit, whether it's going to be £5, £10, whatever it is, and just try and keep to that, because it can, you know, escalate and get out of control. So, themes. So I ask my children and say, darling, you know, what would you like this year? And it might be a knight's party, it might be something to do with ponies, it might be Spider-Man, it might be Barbie, it might be Frozen. Whatever the theme is, I kind of get an idea from my children, or, you know, if they're young, something that they're into or drawn towards. My boys were particularly into tractors and fire engines and things like that, so when they were little, I would theme the party around that, or certainly the cake would be that. Cakes in our house are a big, big deal. I have got this book, I'm going to share it with you. Birthday Cakes for Kids, and the children, when they were old enough, would flick through and say, oh mummy, I like the look of that, I should have actually earmarked you. Big green tractor. I've done this numerous times. I've even done it for other people's children. And you can change it, you know, if they love a red tractor or a blue tractor, and you can personalise it. I also put their name on the number plate here, which I think is really lovely. I will see what else there is in here. Fantasy. Oh, this magical carousel I made for Coco's first birthday, and it looks jolly tricky. I mean, it was quite. I think I was pregnant with Gus as well, heavily pregnant, and I managed to create that. I get so much pleasure out of making their birthday cakes. I also hide the cake from them so they don't see it until the actual moment when I bring it to them with the candles lit. And Sigh's always filming with a movie camera. I make sure I give my phone to somebody so they can snap some pictures as well. And just seeing the delight in their face when they've got this wonderful cake, and you know, they're in the throes of it, so they're not going to be disappointed. They all scream when the knife goes through, which is just the most ear-piercing moment, but they get loads of pleasure out of it. Talking about cake, don't let the children eat it in your home or even garden. I whisk the cake away, cut it up, wrap it in napkins, and that goes home with them, and then they can make the mess at home. And they've probably had enough sugary things at the party anyway not to need cake as well. And I've made the mistake, trust me, you end up with cake and sticky fingers everywhere, so cake goes home. So then, you know, talking about the cake going home, it's really important to try and rope in some help. So my mum, when she was around, would be in charge of cutting up the cake, wrapping it in napkins. She'd also be in charge of making cups of tea or drinks for whoever was staying at the party or whatever it was, but mum was in charge of that, which was lovely. And if you don't have that, then rope in a friend, pay somebody to come and help, and make sure they know to clear up as well. As soon as the children have finished eating, quickly clear the food away because it ends up on the floor and everywhere. Try, if you can, to have parties outside as much as possible. Save your house being trashed. Archie's birthday is September and Gus's is May, which is wonderful. Coco's is February, so we're always inside for hers. Village halls are a wonderful place to host a children's birthday party. They're not very expensive, and that's a really good way of doing it. Or even going to a park or a playground or outside somewhere if you can, obviously depending on the weather. Then going back to sort of themes, I would theme it. So Arch had a Spider-Man, and there's this wonderful guy down here called Party Tom, Tomfoolery, and he probably did about 5 or 6 children's birthday parties. If you can stretch to an entertainer, it is a brilliant, brilliant way, because those children are captivated and you can actually watch and enjoy, and you're not having to provide the entertainment. I have provided the entertainment numerous times as well, whether it's an assault course in the garden, or one day we did sports day games. We had a 3-legged race, we had sack races, we had egg and spoon, we had all sorts of things. And you know, you can ask a few of the mums to stay and help you. That's also really handy. You know, whatever it might be, but you know, think of the theme and carry it on throughout sort of the cake. It might be, so Coco's had a fairy tale castle, and we had fairy arts and crafts, and we did colouring, and we made things, and they made masks, and it, you know, it's really, really fun for them. But you know, if you can have an entertainer, that's great. My next top tip is party food. So keep it simple. And that's why it's good to have the morning free. So it might be sausage rolls, it might be sandwiches, it might be pizzas, whatever it might be, but just think carefully and plan it out. Make sure you've got enough drinks, make sure you're aware if any children have got allergies and you avoid all of those foods. That's really important because there are so many allergies these days. Party bags, something I get very excited about. So I think, well, anyone that comes to our parties expects a party bag, and I think most children do, but you don't need to go to town with party bags. I don't buy loads of crappy things that are just going to break and rubbish. Little tiny books are a really lovely idea. In fact, I haven't got it, I'm just going to go and get it. So we talked about, you know, little books as take-home presents, but I also want to show you these, and I just think they are gorgeous. Children's seeds. And that is just a lovely present. Coco made this little bag of sweets. You know, you take that home with your piece of cake and everybody's happy. I don't think you need to go to town with party bags. Party bags are the highlight, but you don't need to fill it with a whole load of stuff. Just one nice thing. It could be little hair clips. It could be cat's cradle for slightly older girls. They love it. Little set of pens. For boys, whoopee cushions. I mean, who doesn't love a whoopee cushion? not even boys, girls love them too. So just take a moment to think about it and think about what your child's into in the age group, but you can do all sorts of different things and it doesn't need to be really expensive either. You know, this little bag of sweets, Coco, I bought the sweets, you know, in bigger bags and Coco just made it. Also, label the party bags. So I just would put a sticker or write on their name or put a little label so you know who they're for. Make sure you've got enough. Make sure you have a guest list and you tick off and cross off who is coming and who isn't coming. Make sure you have extra party bags because there might be a sibling, you might have an extra child unexpectedly. And I give my children party bags, spoiled as they may be, but actually it seems to be the highlight for them. So they've each got one. Few extras because they'll always be used. It's always good to have something in the cupboard for just in case. Going back to cakes, I didn't mention earlier that you can make the cake in advance and freeze it. And actually with some of them it's easier. So if for the tractor cake that I showed you at the beginning, you can slice it frozen into the right shapes and build it. It's so much easier. Trying to cut a freshly baked cake is actually, it crumbles and it's much harder. It's also easier to ice with buttercream if it's frozen, so that's another top tip. I hope that you have found this helpful. I loved chatting to you about birthday parties. I do plan in the future to expand on it and give you even more information. I hope you have a fabulous weekend and catch you next week.